This is a full tutorial on Pinterest ads. In this video, we're going to be covering everything that you need to know about Pinterest ads so that you can become an expert and ultimately get more sales, leads, whatever it is for your business. In this video, we're going to be covering why you should consider Pinterest ads. We're going to look at the cost of Pinterest ads and how that compares to other social platforms, types of ads you can run on Pinterest, and how to actually set up those ads, going through all the settings and the targeting options that are available to you. And then we're actually going to go into what type of creative actually works for Pinterest ads, including an easy to view swipe file for inspiration. And I'm also going to talk about tools that I have used to accelerate the process to create more ads inside of Pinterest. And then finally, we're going to talk about ways to optimize and best practices for your Pinterest ads. So this will be a little bit longer of a tutorial, so I have timestamps down below so you can skip around as needed. However, I encourage you to watch this video all the way through because we are going to be covering lots inside of here. Feel free to pause and take notes as needed. And let's jump into Pinterest ads. So one of the first questions I do want to answer about Pinterest is, what do Pinterest ads look like? If you're here on your home feed, either on desktop or mobile, and we're scrolling through, you can kind of see where the Pinterest ads are. They actually do a really good job of hiding them. You can see the Pinterest ad is identified by this little promoted by, and you can see this is an ad right here by Peloton. You see there's one over here by Xfinity, another one over here. And as you scroll through, they're just kind of hidden throughout the entire feed. What I really like about Pinterest is it's a visual search engine, right? So it gives you the opportunity to show ads that can really stand out inside of all of these different images. So that's one of the first reasons why I really love Pinterest, is it is image-based ads. Now, the second reason why I really like Pinterest is there are two different ways to target people. You can either target people based on audiences or interest. Hence, when I'm inside of this home feed, you can see that these are pins that are just kind of served to me based on my search history and pins that I've interacted with. But if, as an advertiser, I can target people who are searching for specific keywords. For example, if I come over here to Pinterest and I search for something, let's say, we see guys casual fashion here. This one, something that Pinterest is recommending me. Let's say that I search for this. You'll notice that a lot of the ads inside of here are going to be related to guys casual fashion. So you can see here's an ad by Amazon. Here's another one for this suit right here. Another one down here by Temu. And the same thing if you come over here and let's just say we're looking for software, like random software, you can see that all of the ads are going to be related to software. Here's another one down here. Lots of different ads related to another block advisors. So that's one of the things that I really like about Pinterest compared to other social media platforms, is you can target audiences and keywords inside of Pinterest. Now, I know what you may be thinking, this all sounds great, but how do they cost compared to other social media platforms? This company called Adderall actually went through and did a study on this to kind of give us some baseline numbers. Now, I will say these are average numbers, and you can see lower or higher numbers on all of the different platforms, but this gives you a good idea on where Pinterest kind of stacks up as far as cost goes. And in my own personal experience, I can say this is directionally pretty right. So you can see here's the social media ad cost by platform. You can see that Facebook, to reach 1,000 people on average, is $14.40. The average cost per click is actually pretty low at 44 cents. You can see Pinterest is over here. The average cost to reach 1,000 people is $5, and the average cost per click is around $1.50. What this means is it's easier to reach a lot of people, but the less people are clicking. So the click-through rate is a little bit less inside of Pinterest. So you can see that Pinterest is more expensive than TikTok and Facebook, but slightly less expensive than Instagram and way less expensive than Twitter or LinkedIn, basically, which kind of makes sense, right? So that gives you an idea and a baseline on what the cost of Pinterest can be for your account. Like I said, this will vary dramatically depending on what audiences you're targeting and keywords, but it still gives you a good baseline. Now, when it comes to Pinterest, when you are scrolling through and looking either at the home feed or searching for something specific, there are many different types of ads that you can show to individual users. And Pinterest has a really good breakdown of all these right here. So the first one that you have here is just a standard pin. You can see it shows up in the feed when someone's either browsing or searching. And then you have your video ad that can show up in the feed as well, or while they are scrolling through. Then you have an idea ad. You have your carousel, which allows them to, this isn't like a great view of it, but you can go through and swipe through multiple ads variations. 5, I believe, is the most. You have a collection ad, you have shopping ads, you have a showcase ad, and then you even have this little quiz ad as well. So lots of different ad types inside of Pinterest that you can utilize. And in case you are wondering, here are all the different ad sizes inside of Pinterest. So you can go through and kind of have that as a reference. So now let's actually go through and talk about how to start running Pinterest ads. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is go to your Pinterest business account. You can come over here just to your home feed. And in order to start running ads inside of Pinterest, you do need to have a business account. Now, if you do find that you don't see ads or anything up here and you are on a personal account, don't worry, it's very easy to go through and switch. what you need to do is go over to this top right hand corner in your profile, click on the little button right here, and then you'll see a drop down. You want to go to settings here. From settings, if you come over to account management, you'll see something here that says convert to a business account. Mine says convert to a personal account because I'm already on a business account. So you go through and click that, it will convert you to a business account. There's virtually no downside to being on a business account, so I would not worry about that in the slightest. Every account that I create is always just a business account by default. So that is the first step to make sure that you have a business account. So now that we've made sure that we are on a Pinterest business account, the next step is to make sure that we have the pixel installed onto our website. This is critical because the pixel allows us to track what is working and what isn't. And I don't recommend running any campaigns until the pixel is set up. For those who aren't familiar, that is a little piece of code that you install onto your website that lets you track when sales or leads come in from your ads. So in order to set up the Pinterest pixel, what you're going to do is click on this top left-hand corner and come over here to conversions. Now, mine is already set up for this account, but chances are when you come in here, you're going to see no data, or it's going to say something like set up the Pinterest pixel. You can come over here to Tag Manager, and that's where you'll find your pixel. Now, if you aren't familiar on how to set this up, there's a couple different options. You can either send this to your developer and they can go through and set it up for you. Or if you wanted to go through and set it up for yourself, I actually have full tutorials on how to do this if you are on a Shopify store, or if you are trying to get more leads or you're a different kind of website, I have a tutorial on how to install the pixel directly onto your website. Now, if you aren't sure if the pixel is already installed on your website and you're wanting to check whether it is or not, there's a very easy tool to go through and do that. If you just Google the Pinterest tag helper and add this to your Chrome, you can see I have it up here. It looks like this. And you go to the store that you are wanting to run these ads for, and you click this right here and then refresh the page. It will tell you whether a pixel is on that page or not. So you can see right here, there's 2, and then there are no issues found with this. And then you can go through the events as well and kind of track different things. But that's a quick way to tell if there is a pixel already on your site. Of course, another way is to see if you come in here to your account and you're not seeing any event history or data coming in, then that's probably another sign that the pixel is not working right now. So make sure that you install the pixel before you move on to the next step. Like I said, resources down below on how to set that up. So now that we have our Pinterest business account set up, we have the pixel set up, it's now time to actually go through and run the ads. In order to start creating ads, we want to click back inside of here, and then we are going to come over to create campaign. Now you can see there's a couple of different options here under create campaign, promote a pin, and bulk editor. For 99% of the people, I would recommend create campaign. You can go through and promote a specific pin, but it's just not going to give you as much options, and it's going to limit you a little bit. So very rarely do I recommend promoting a pin. For the bulk editor, most people that's not going to apply to you because it's making bulk changes to campaigns. So we're going to go here to create campaign. And this is where Pinterest is going to give you 2 more options to choose from. And I think this is kind of a funny screen. You can see here in the automated campaign, it basically goes through and Pinterest will automate the entire process for you where you have less control, but you can see it's a lot faster. If you're just wanting to get an ad up really quickly and you don't really care about the targeting or want to have control, this might be an option for you. However, most of the time I do not go with this option. I prefer the manual campaign setup. If you're spending money, this is your hard-earned money if you're a small business owner or you want to get the best results for your clients. And so I go with the manual setup. I think that this is a huge overstatement that it's going to take 10 to 60 minutes. I would say on average, it's on the lower end of that, towards the 10 minutes to go through and set this up. So take that for what it's worth, but I'm going to show you how to do the manual campaign setup for this because it takes obviously a little bit more work to go through and do. So we're going to get started here. And now we are going to be taken to a view that looks like it has lots of, settings and things like that, but don't worry, I'm going to be walking you through exactly how to use this right here. So what it's going to ask us to do next is to choose a campaign objective. And I wouldn't overthink this too much. You can see there are 3 different buckets here. You have build awareness, drive consideration, and get conversions. I would say for most people, you're going to want it to get conversions. Build awareness is something that really, really big brands like Coca-Cola, Nike, they may run ads for those things, like credit card companies, stuff like that. But chances are if you're running Pinterest ads, you want to see a return on your investment. And the best way to do that is either through the conversion action or catalog sales. If you have a catalog set up inside of Pinterest, or conversions being sales, leads, anything like that. So for most people, I would consider choosing one of these 2. If for whatever reason you don't have the pixel set up, it will not let you drive towards conversions. So you would have to do consideration to get people to click on your ad, which is like the next best step. That's like choosing between good and better. This is definitely the best option, is to get more conversions. So we're going to go for conversions here. And this is going to be our campaign name. So I'm going to call this conversions. I like to name this the campaign objective that I'm running with. This is going to be like a prospecting campaign. And we are going to be targeting the US here. So you can name this whatever you would like inside of these settings. I just like to be as descriptive as possible because especially as you start to build more and more campaigns, this really helps out to know what exactly you're targeting inside of here. And we're going to do even more naming inside of the ad group itself. Here you can see we can either have the campaign status be active or paused. Most of the time you're going to want to go with active because you're building this because you want to run and start seeing those ads go live. Then here we can choose the campaign budget type. So we either have a lifetime budget option or a daily budget option. It's interesting. Pinterest here says that the best performance is lifetime. I have seen mixed results with this. So do whatever you think is best for you. But basically a lifetime budget is if you give Pinterest $100, it could spend that budget in one day. It could spend it in a month. There's no limit to how much it can spend in a day, but over the lifetime, that's the most it can spend. Whereas a daily budget is a little bit more spread out. So you can say, hey, spend $20 a day or $5 a day for an infinite amount of time. So for now, we'll just stick with the lifetime budget and say that this is a budget of $50 here for this specific one. However, I will say if you do have a smaller budget, say that you're spending $5, $10 a day, in that case, I would probably recommend going with like a daily budget. So you can start with Pinterest ads pretty cheap. You know, let's say you wanted to do $3 a day. And you can see here, it will give you this little checkbox saying that you might spend up to $3.75 on a given day, but weekly you will not exceed any more than $21. What this is because Pinterest is trying to get you the most sales possible, it sometimes will bid a little bit higher or spend a little bit more on that day if it thinks it can get you a conversion, and then spend a little bit less on other days when it thinks it won't get a conversion. So total, it will only spend, that $21 a week based on that $3 budget. Or you can see if I was spending, $10, it would adjust for that as well inside of there. So you can spend up to $12.50, but it won't exceed $70 a day. So you can choose either the lifetime or the daily, depending on whatever your objectives is. Either one, you can't really go wrong, but this is something that you can test inside of your account to see what performs better. Next, you can go through and set a campaign schedule. This is pretty self-explanatory. You can either run it continuously or you can run it on a specific date. This is great if you are in e-commerce or you have lots of sales, say like Black Friday sales, Memorial Day sales, anything like that. You can set up and build out the ads so that they're ready to go and then have them only run between a certain date range, which is really helpful. That's when I use the run on a specific date the most often, but more often than running on specific dates, I use the run continuously. That way I can pause and adjust the ads in real time as needed when I see data come in. And now you can see Pinterest is going to ask us to go through and continue on this. So we are in the campaign stage. Now, it is important to quickly go over the structure for Pinterest ads in case you are not familiar. So you can see here when it comes to Pinterest ads, it's structured in 3 different levels. You have your campaign right here, and you saw the settings that we went through and did that. That's where you can go through and set your budget, choose your campaign objective. And then next, we're going to be talking about the ad groups. This is where you can go through and actually define who you want to target, whether it's keywords or audiences. And you can have as many ad groups inside of a campaign as you would like maybe you wanted to do one ad group targeting audiences and another ad group targeting keywords to test which performs better. You could go through and do that. And then after the ad groups, then you can say, okay, my keyword targeting ad group, I want to run 3 ads inside of there. And maybe on the audience one, I only want to run 1 ad. So this is a very basic kind of campaign structure that you can run. If you wanted to only run 1 campaign, 1 ad group and 1 ad, or you can run 1 campaign, multiple ad groups, multiple ads, or 1 campaign, 2 ad groups and then 3 ads. So however you want to set this up, you can do that, but that's kind of the basic layout. So now we've gone through and completed the campaign settings. Now we want to go to the ad group. We're going to come back over here to Pinterest and we're going to hit continue. And now you can see we are in the ad group details here. And then here it's going to ask us to name our ad group. Now I'm going to come back and name this after I've actually gone through and selected the targeting. We're going to spend a little bit of time here talking about the targeting strategy and what this kind of looks like and the options that you have for it inside of Pinterest. And so usually I come back to the ad group name after I've defined my audience inside of here. And you can see here we have 3 different targeting strategies. The first is to reconnect with users. The next is to find new customers. And the third is to choose your own adventure. And I think it's funny, recommended for experienced advertisers only. Don't worry, I'll walk you through this process. It's really easy. So the first one that we have here is reconnect with users. So this is remarketing basically. And you can see if you go through and select this option, this allows you to target anybody who's interacted with your business, either by interacting with your site. So people have gone through and visited your site, added to cart, different things like that, engaged with your pins, or a customer list. So say that you have an email list or a purchase list that you wanted to go through and upload, you could go through and do that. Now, if you are wanting to run with one of these 3 options, you will need to have the audience source created. So you can come over here to create new audience list. And then from here, you can go through and define that audience. If I wanted to target people who have engaged with my content on Pinterest, I can go through and I would call this pin engagement list. And then you can go through and give it a description if you needed. And then it's going to ask whether you want to include the list or exclude the list. Now, this may be confusing for some people, but what this is, the purpose of this is if you have a purchase list, say that you wanted to target people who have seen your pins, but exclude anybody who has purchased from you before. So you can go through and include or exclude people in this audience. We want to include it in this case. And then here we want to define the action that people have performed. So any engagement actions or an optimized engage action, you can go through and select those inside of there. And then finally, it asks how you want to select your source. So you can either target people who have seen a specific pin ID, campaign ID, objective, or ad ID. Most of the people, it's going to be remarketing to people who have engaged with their content. Now, if you aren't sure how to get this pin ID, it's very easy. If you just go to your Pinterest account, select the pin that you are wanting to remarket to. You can see here's one of mine. Then you go here to the URL and you grab this little part right here at the top, copy that, come back over to Pinterest, and then you can go through and select that there. And then you can also select your claim domain. For here, we're going to do this one and then go through and create. And then that will go through and populate that audience. Now, one thing that is important to note with this audience type is you can see here that it is going to take 48 hours to go through and populate that audience. So if you are wanting to run an ad and you need to get one up right away, be considerate of this and know that you need at least 48 hours for that audience to populate for a remarketing list. For the other two options that we're going to be talking about, this doesn't really apply, but did just want to make that known to you. Now that we went through this audience list, I do want to go through the other options here. And if you are going through and building this and you wanted to go back and you're wondering how to get back up there, if you scroll up here and click this down, you can see you can go through and change the targeting strategy that you're using. So now let's go on to the find new customers. You can see we can go through and reset that there. And this is where you can go through and create a what Pinterest calls an act-like audience, or if you're familiar with Facebook ads, it's a look-alike audience. This is where you can go through and create an audience of people. You give Pinterest the data of people who have purchased your product before, and then you can go through and create an act-alike audience to target people who act like those people on Pinterest. So it's not targeting your purchases, but it's targeting people who are most likely going to act like people who have purchased from you. If you have a good list of purchase data and you upload this, this can be a very lucrative way to target inside of Pinterest, because it's basically just skipping a lot of the data that Pinterest needs to collect and finding the people that are most likely to purchase your products. Now, if you wanted to go through and create this list, you do the same thing, create new audience list, and you're gonna have to go through and select your source here and do kind of the same actions that we went through in the previous step when we built the audience list. So I'm not gonna go through all the ins and outs of this. I'm actually gonna create a full tutorial on Pinterest act-like audiences. So if you're interested in something like that, be sure to subscribe down below. But let's move on to the third and probably the most common audience type that most people are going to be using, and that is the interest in keywords. So we're gonna come back over here and we're going to select choose our own. And then we're gonna reset this. And then inside of this setting, you'll see that we have interest and keywords, demographics, placements, and targeting. So if we click down in here, you can see this is broken out into two different buckets. We have add interest or add keywords. So you can either do interest only, or you can do three different options here. You can either target by interest, target by keywords, or target by both. Now, in most situations, I recommend targeting by one or the other and testing those two audiences against each other to see what ones perform better. Do what you think is best for your brand. And as always, test, test, test. So for this example, we are going to pretend that we are selling men's watches here. You can see we have the ad kind of all drafted up. I'll show you how to quickly make something like this as well later on in the video. But we're gonna come back over here and I'm gonna show you how I would go about targeting this. So you can see that there are lots of different topics inside of Pinterest that you can go through and do. And inside there's even subtopics. So you can see for animals, for instance, there's mammals, dogs, felines. You can go through and kind of target. If I wanted to target all animals, people who are interested in animals, I can just click on that and it will target all of the ones in that subgroup. Or if I only wanted to target people who were interested in dogs, I could click there and only target that one. Now for me, I'm wanting to target people who are interested in watches. The best way to find interest for those is I will just literally come into the search bar and I'll type in watches, and you can see it will give you the categories here. And specifically, I'm looking for men's watches. So I want to target this men's fashion accessories right here. And you can see there is the interest targeting, and it's going to give me an idea of the monthly active ad audience. So about 65 to 108,000 is the audience size. Now, a lot of people will ask me what an ideal audience size is. To be honest, I've seen all different audience sizes work, either both narrow and broad. But generally speaking, you want this to be as close to the center as possible. I know that's very general, but hopefully that helps when you are trying to define the audience size. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I worry more about making sure that you're targeting the right people. Now, if you do find that your audience is just really, really narrow and not really reaching that much, you can opt into this audience expansion targeting. You can see here, it help you reach people searching additional topics relevant to your ads. So you could go through and click this, and then it will give you more of an expanded reach here. You can see that really gives it a lot. But for me, I'm going to opt out of that. That's something else that you can go through and test. At the end of this video, I'll have a full list for you of everything that you can go through and test and optimize towards for you specifically. And I know I've been saying that's something that you can go through and test a lot in this video. So I will have a cheat sheet of everything that you can go through and test inside of your Pinterest ads in case that is something that's going to be helpful for you. So now in this situation, what I would typically do is I would leave these interests inside of here. I would go through and change the demographics if I needed to, and then the placements as well. I usually just keep on all here because I want to show up on both browse and search. And then I'll come back over to this campaign group, and I will name this audience. And I'll name this audience targeting watches. So now we have the audience targeting all set up. We've gone through and named our ad group, and we still haven't gone through the keyword targeting options. It's very much the same way, but I do want to go back and talk about that in a minute. What I generally do when I'm setting up a brand new Pinterest account is I will set it up like this. So I'll have my campaign, the first campaign, kind of a general prospecting campaign. I'll create one ad group that is audience targeting, the one that we just created right here. I'll go through and I'll finish out the entire process. I'll create the ads for this specific ad group. And then the first test that I like to run is audience targeting versus keyword targeting to see which one performs better. So then I will duplicate this ad group and then just change the keyword targeting here and then run the exact same ad. So if I have one ad inside of here, if I have, so let's say 2 ads inside of this campaign, I will take those 2 same ads, I will duplicate them and put them here as well so that I can test which audience is best for my product. And if that doesn't make sense, don't worry. I'll be coming back and showing you exactly how I duplicate this really quickly and change those out. But we're going to come back over here. We're going to skip the keyword targeting for the time being, because as I mentioned, we are going to be come back and talk about that. You can go through and change the demographics. So if you want to go through and change gender, age, location, languages, and devices, make sure you are targeting the location that you are wanting to hit. And then here is placements. And this is something that is unique kind of to Pinterest. You can either target all placements, which I generally recommend, or you can target people who are only in the browse or people who are only searching. And that goes back to what we were talking about before when you are on Pinterest and you're on the home feed. So if someone's just going through and browsing on their home feed, that is where your ads will show up if you opt into the only, or if you opt into the search only, you'll only show up when people are searching specific keywords, say combat boots here. That is when your ad will show up right here. There's an ad by Amazon. But I like to show up for both when I'm beginning out to see which placements might be better for me. So it's another thing that you can go through and test. So I recommend keeping that on all. Finally, you can come over here to the optimization and delivery. This is where having your pixel setup is really important. So this is where you can go through and select a specific event you want to optimize towards. You see here, I only have the add to cart and checkout set up for this specific demo account. But if you wanted to go through and actually do purchases, you could set that pixel up and optimize towards purchases or any kind of event inside of your account. We're just going to do checkout right here. Next, we have the bidding. You either have automatic or custom. Now, unless you've been running a lot of Pinterest ads, I do recommend starting out with the automatic to get an idea of what your costs are. Then you can go back and test in custom. But if you're just getting started, start with the automatic. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Next, Pinterest is going to give us 3 options. Once again, that kind of seems to be the theme here. We have 3 different options. You can either select a pin to run, choose from your boards, or a paid partnership. So you can take one of the pins from your profile and run that as an ad. You can see if I click right here, I can go to all of my pins and I can run any of these pins as an ad, which is really nice. So you don't need to go through and upload it again. Or you can create a new pin. So you can go through and upload it here and then do your pin title, description, add the destination link as well, and then put it in the board that you'd like. Or you can create an idea pin, which is a video that is designed to tell a story or showcase an idea. So if you kind of fit into one of those buckets, you can create one of those. It's kind of confusing, and I get a lot of questions on this because both of these you can do videos that create a pin and create an idea pin. I think Pinterest is having a little bit of identity crisis here because to me, there really isn't that big of a difference in these 2 settings. So keep that in mind. Now, before we jump into these settings though, I do want to go over the type of ad creative that works inside of Pinterest and things that you should consider before you start creating ads inside of Pinterest. So the first thing that we briefly talked about before is the ad sizes. Here's a cheat sheet on all the ad sizes. And then I have a swipe file for inspiration for Pinterest creative as well. And yes, there will be a link down below if you wanted to get your hands on this deck for your reference. Now, just some quick general tips before we get into some specific examples on things to think about with Pinterest ad creative is the first thing you need to ask yourself is what is your scroll stopper? As you can see, when you come into Pinterest and you're just looking at the profile, you're competing with a lot of different images. So you need to ask, how are you going to get somebody to stop scrolling and look at your pin? And this is another way of putting this is what is your hook for your video? Whether it's an image or a video, you need to have some way of getting them to stop scrolling. The next thing is if you are optimizing towards search, be sure to customize your copy to those search queries. When you're building the descriptions, be sure to keep that keyword in mind. When you are putting text on your images or videos, be sure to keep that in mind as well, because it's just going to help you be more relevant. I know video is sometimes harder to create, but take advantage of video inside of Pinterest. If we come over here and we scroll through, my guess is the first thing that caught your eye was this right here. One, it's in the center, but also because it is a video, it really just stands out a lot more in a sea of images. So think about ways that you can incorporate videos. I'm going to be talking about tools on how to build videos as well later down in the video if you are worried about that. But when possible, do try to consider having a mix of images and videos. As far as best length, Pinterest has come out and said 6 to 15 seconds. This is kind of a general rule of thumb. If it is a little bit longer, don't worry about that, but general rule of thumb, 6 to 15 seconds. Very kind of common sense thing, but be sure to add as much value as you can inside of the pin. This will get more people saving your pin and get you a bigger organic reach. Before and after photos work really well inside of Pinterest. Optimize for sound off first. Most people that are on Pinterest, they do not have the sound on, so don't use sound as a crutch. Be sure to use text overlays as much as possible. Now, as far as specific creative that I've seen work really well, I'm gonna kind of gloss through these pretty quickly, but like I said, there will be a link to this down below if you wanted to look at it. Here's just some general techniques that I've seen work really well on Pinterest. And the first one is actually kind of funny, is to use bright, different, or even ugly colors to your advantage. So you can see here, I would classify this first one actually kind of almost as like an ugly ad. Like the colors just kind of stand out, but when you're scrolling in Pinterest, it catches your eye because of the color. Same here with this one. It's just like a long wall of text. I think these ones look really nice. This is an example of using colors that stand out in like a beautiful way. These are examples of using colors that stand out in an ugly way, and both work. Next is close-ups of face. This will work for video or images. People naturally gravitate towards faces. And so when you see a big face inside of the Pinterest feed, it really does draw people's attention. And same thing with weird, strange looking products. If you have a product that kind of people look at and like, what the heck is that? Be sure to use that as your hook and take advantage of those scenarios. This one right here is satisfying transitions. This one, they go through and they touch it and then it turns into the sliced oranges here. Satisfying transitions do catch people's eyes. And don't be afraid to have creative call to actions. Now, do have call to actions on your ad as much as possible. Don't overdo it. But I do like the idea of thinking differently about CTAs. You can see here, I love this one, shop for him or shop for her. It's kind of a different way of saying, hey, shop now. Instead of saying shop now, shop for him. It kind of has like a little bit less of a salesy approach. And then here you can say change starts here, and then it has the arrows pointing down. Now this format is kind of the same thing in different ways, and I see it work really well, especially for e-commerce. And that's to highlight features and benefits through small little text. You can see, and there's 4 different ways to do it here. You can see sweat wicking, versatile style, recycled materials, and then the same thing. It just goes through and highlights some of the benefits or features of these products. This one right here, this format with the kind of white lines that point to something specifically, is very popular and performs really well. This next one is the version of this, like the features benefits, but for an image or for a video format. I'm not going to go through and play these videos, but it's basically going through and doing the same thing. It's just showing the features or benefits of the product in a very close-up manner, and it's just focusing on that and solely that. Because Pinterest is a visual platform, aspirational pins do extremely well. Show people the outcome of what they are wanting to achieve. This works really well with home decor and DIY projects, but it also can work for e-commerce. Here you can see this neckline shaving template is a great example of that as well. Oddly satisfying, if your product or service can do something that is oddly satisfying, like spreading this cake batter on a cake, that will catch people's eyes. And then infographics do really well because people like to go through and save them because it kind of gives them value right from the beginning. Different size fonts and colors. You can see here just using words bigger or smaller to stand out as well. And then also on that same vein, using numbers as much as possible. And another thing that a lot of people I think over or forget about in Pinterest is the carousel ads. Take advantage of those when possible. I think that this is actually like not a great example of a carousel ad. You can see it's kind of the same image or the same text just with different images. A better use of this I think is like steps or examples. You can see 3 steps to blank. This is a great one from T-Mobile here. And then another good format is 3 reasons why blank, 3 reasons to use this product. You can see this is a great example here. And then the last thing that works really well, especially in the fitness niche, is challenges. Challenge ads like 28-day challenge for this, 90-day challenge for this. And then we have the stop overpaying for books, just stop blank. That kind of ad works really well. And then finally, testimonies, quotes, reviews overlaid on top of the product. And then here's just some more random e-commerce inspiration inside of here. So that is hopefully gives you some ideas to start with when it comes to the ad creative. Some of you may be thinking, well, that's great to see what works, but how do I actually go through and create that? And that's sometimes a lot of the problem that I often face with these kind of things. But don't worry, here are 4 tools that I use to go through and create ads for Pinterest. The first one being Canva, next one Tailwind, AdCreative.ai, and Viral Ecom Ads. I'll briefly go over how I use all of these. Most of the time I am using Canva to create different ads. I'll leave a link to all of these products down below as well if you wanted to check them out. For example, here inside of Canva, it is very easy to go through and create something like this. They have lots of different templates. So what you can do is come over here to Canva, click Create Design, and then just type in Pinterest. And it is going to give you lots of different formats. You can either do a carousel ad or a static ad here. If you click that, it's then going to, in this left-hand side, give you lots of different templates. And you can go through and click in anything in these templates. You can search for something specific. So say that I am in the watch. Let's type in this watch. You can see now there is a little thing for this watch. And based on that, it will then go through and give me different recommendations on templates that I can go through and use. Now you can see some of these are the pro version. So you do need to have a paid Canva account for some of these templates, but it's still a really great tool. And then from here, you can go through and drag and drop and change whatever you'd like to. You can change your website. You can move around the images, make a very professional looking ad in literally a couple of seconds. Now, another option, if you want more of a more automated approach and wanted to pay a little bit, you can go through and get AdCreative.ai. This is a great tool that I've been using more and more. They do have like a free plan that you can go through and take advantage of as well. But you can see they have these ad packages where you can go through and click inside of here, and it will ask you some basic questions like scan your website, AI suggestions, advertising platform, and then it'll have you choose some background images, and it will spit out a bunch of different creative for you to go through and build in a very fast manner. Tailwind does the exact same thing as well. And then finally, if you're looking to create some user-generated content or testimonials or different things like that, a great resource is Viral E-commerce Ads. You can see they have packages that are very affordable, non-members up to as little as like $60 or $40 to go through and create ads for you. So you can go through and split test different things. And the great thing about this is that these ads will not only work on Pinterest, but you can use them on TikTok, Instagram, any of the different platforms. I use them all the different platforms, and it works out really well. So hopefully that gives you not only the inspiration for creative, but now you also have some tools that you can go through and check out to find out the best way for you to get that creative built out and done. So now we're going to come back over here. We're going to use this Pinterest men's watch as an example here. We're going to click on that. And then from here, we can go through and create the pin, click on this. And then we're going to click here and drag this in our Pinterest ad example here. And then from here, you can go through and give your pin a title. Remember, we are trying to optimize for search as well. So you are going to want to try and include your keyword in here as much as possible. So we're just going to call this men's watch. And then here you can go through and give your product a description. And then you want to go through and select a board. If there isn't a board that is applicable to your specific product, you can go through and create a new board inside of there. And you can see this is the option to have this run as an ad only. If you wanted this to show up on your profile, which majority of the time I would recommend you doing that, this allows people to go through and save the pin and put it on their own profile as well. And there's basically not very many cons to running it on your profile. But if for whatever reason you only want it to run it as an ad, you can flip that off right there. But I'm going to leave it on so it shows on the profile as well. Now, if you wanted to create a carousel, you can go through and click this right here, and then it will have you go through and upload multiple images, and you can scroll through those different multiple images. And if you wanted, Pinterest even has the option to go through and actually edit this pin inside of here. So you can go through and change the aspect ratios if you needed to. You can also go through and adjust different things like the cropping of it. And then here you can go through and even add a logo, change the size, the margins, the positions. And then of course, finally, you want to go through and add the destination link, and then you go through and publish. Once you go through and publish, then you'll see your campaign run through. Okay, so once you have that in place, then you can go through, it will show you a preview of what this is going to look like. And then here, this is something that's important. You can turn direct links on. So what this is going to do is it's going to send people directly to your website. Instead of clicking and going into the pin, you can actually send them directly to your website. I've seen this be actually working really well. Through and do learn now or shop now. That's what I'm going to be doing here for this action. Then we can go through and hit publish. Then this will drop you to a view that looks something like this. Currently disabled right now because this account was just a demo one. As I mentioned, if you wanted to go through and duplicate your ad group so that you could run a ad group testing, what you can do is come back over here to Pinterest, click inside the campaign name that you're wanting to run. We're going to click this one right here. And then inside of here, you'll see the ad group. You can click duplicate right there, and it will duplicate that ad group. And then you can go through and change the settings in there for the keywords and target keywords specifically. So it will take you into a view that looks like this, where you can go through and click add keywords. And then this is where you can go through and do the same thing that we did before and just type in watch. And then here you can see you'll have watches, men watches, or all sorts of different keywords for watches. And as I mentioned, I wanted to target men's watches. So then I can go through and type in men's watches here and see if anything is showing up. You'll see a lot of times with the Pinterest keywords, there's not like, you can't get really long tail keywords. So keep it as broad as possible. and go through and just target any of the keywords that are applicable to your niche. And then you go through and save that and then run that same ad to testing against those 2 different audiences. And then from this point, it will start collecting data so you can go through and see how many impressions the campaigns are getting, the pin clicks, the outbound clicks, and then ultimately how much you are making from these inside of these stats right here. You can see you can go through and change the table overview to like performance if you wanted to see like the total ROAS, return on ad spend, or the total order value for these particular campaigns. And as I mentioned, if you want access to these Pinterest optimizations and best practices sheet, there will be a link down below. Go through and check that out. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found value in this, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.